Ever wondered who owns the moon? Is it even possible to own a celestial body? You might think it's a crazy question, but it's one that's been asked more than you might imagine. The concept of lunar land ownership has been a topic of debate among legal scholars and space enthusiasts alike. It's a fascinating question, isn't it? Can anyone truly claim ownership of the moon? Believe it or not, there's a man who claims to own the moon. Meet Dennis Hope. Dennis Hope is a name you may not be familiar with, but he's made quite a name for himself in the realm of space real estate. In the vast expanse of outer space, Hope found his niche. He's not a scientist or an astronaut, but a man who's made a living from the moon. In the early 1980s, Hope laid claim to the lunar surface, declaring himself the owner of our celestial neighbour. This unconventional businessman then founded a company, the Lunar Embassy, to sell plots of this extraterrestrial land. For a modest fee, anyone could become a lunar landowner, at least according to Hope's Lunar Embassy. It sold lunar land certificates, promising a small piece of the moon to anyone with a few dollars and a dream. But the moon isn't just a piece of real estate in the sky, it's a celestial body, a part of our shared human heritage. And this is where Hope's lunar land sales venture sparked controversy. From the perspective of international law, the moon isn't owned by any one person or nation. The 1967 Outer Space Treaty, ratified by over 100 nations, prohibits national appropriation of celestial bodies, including the moon. This treaty essentially designates space as a global commons belonging to all of humanity. Despite this, Hope's lunar land certificates continue to sell. His customers, it seems, are willing to overlook the legal complexities in favour of owning their own slice of the moon. But Hope's lunar land sales raise important questions. Can one man really own the moon? What does it mean to own a piece of our shared cosmic heritage? And what are the implications if we allow celestial bodies to be bought and sold? These questions aren't just academic. They touch on our relationship with the cosmos, our understanding of ownership, and the future of space exploration and exploitation. Despite selling plots of lunar land, the legality of Hope's claims remains a topic of hot debate. As we look to the stars and dream of colonizing other worlds, we must also consider the legal and ethical implications of such ventures. After all, the moon isn't just a piece of property. It's a symbol of our shared human journey through the cosmos. In 1967, an international agreement called the Outer Space Treaty was established. But what does it say about owning the moon? Well, the Outer Space Treaty is a bit like the Constitution of Space. It sets the basic legal framework for all international space activities. One of its most important provisions is that it prohibits nations from claiming sovereignty over celestial bodies. That includes the moon, planets, asteroids, comets, you name it. This means that no country can plant a flag on the moon and say, "This is ours." The moon, like all of outer space, is considered a global commons, a place that belongs to everyone and no one. It's a bit like international waters, but in the sky. Now, what about individuals? Can a person own a piece of the moon? According to international law experts like Claire Finkelstein, the answer is no. The treaty isn't just about countries, it's also about us, the people who live in those countries. If nations can't own celestial bodies, neither can individuals. Despite this, there are those like Dennis Hope, who claim ownership of the moon and even sell plots of lunar land. But according to the Outer Space Treaty, these sales are more novelty than reality. They might get you a nice certificate to hang on your wall, but they don't give you legal ownership of the moon. So where does this leave us? And what about the future of space real estate? The treaty's impact on Hope's claims and the future of space real estate remains uncertain. So, can you really own the moon? Here's a recap of what we've learned. Our lunar land ownership journey has introduced us to some fascinating characters and concepts. There's Dennis Hope, an enterprising individual who claims ownership of the moon. Through his company, the Lunar Embassy, he's even selling plots of land on the moon. But then we dove into the world of international space law, where things get a little more complex. The 1967 Outer Space Treaty, agreed upon by nations worldwide, prohibits the national appropriation of celestial bodies, and yes, that includes the moon. This treaty essentially means that no country can claim ownership of the moon, let alone individuals. It's a fascinating piece of legislation that helps maintain the status of outer space as a global commons. Despite the sale of lunar land certificates by the Lunar Embassy, individual ownership of the moon is not legally recognized. This means that while you can buy a certificate, it doesn't necessarily mean you own a piece of the moon. As we venture further into the final frontier, the question of who owns the moon continues to captivate and confound us.